They told me, just sign the $180,000 and $1,000 house over to your sister, she has kids. As if my sacrifice was automatic, as if my years of saving didn't count. What they didn't know was that I'd already moved faster. The legal transfer was done before their boxes ever hit my driveway. So when they arrived, grinning ready to take over my home, they were met with a surprise that froze every smile in place. And the fallout that followed tore the family wide open. My name is Lauren Carter, and I work as a registered nurse in Columbus, Ohio. 12-hour shifts at Mercy General leave my feet screaming, my back aching, and my patience threadbare. But I kept pushing double shifts when they begged weekends at the clinic when the bills stacked too high. Every overtime hour, every cup of vending machine coffee was poured into one goal, a house of my own. After 3 years of saving, I finally held the keys. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a yard that could use love, but it was mine. Or at least it was supposed to be. Now, here I was sitting across from my mother in my own kitchen, listening to her talk like the deed already belonged to someone else. "Sweetheart, you don't need all this space," Mom said, smoothing her skirt like she was chairing a board meeting. Her manicured hands folded the picture of authority. "Brinley has the twins to think about. And with Braden between jobs, 8 months between jobs," I said, sipping cold coffee. Working on his music career, Brinley cut in, sharply bouncing one of her boys on her hip. The other was in my hallway, dragging a marker across the wall. I clenched my jaw, praying it was washable. Dad cleared his throat from his chair, his contribution, as usual, a half-hearted note. "We found a studio downtown. Very modern. You'd like it. A studio. For me." The woman who skipped vacations, who worked Christmas Eve shifts, who ate peanut butter sandwiches at midnight to make the mortgage. A studio was their big solution. My life condensed into one box so my sister could spread her chaos through every corner of mine. "Think of it as a fresh start," Mom chirped. "Less responsibility, no yard work, no maintenance. You could focus on whatever it is you do. Whatever it is I do," I asked. "You mean keeping people alive, but they weren't listening." They never did. Brinley was scrolling her phone, smirking like she'd already picked out curtains. "We can help with the mortgage. Once Braden's music takes off." My grip tightened on the mug. "I need to think about this." Mom's voice hardened instantly. "What's to think about? Family comes first, Lauren. Always. Always my sacrifice is never theirs." The sentence bloomed inside me like a bruise. Dad leaned forward, tone mild, but waited. "We're not asking you to decide right now. We just want to give you time before we start making arrangements. Not if. Before." The decision had been made. I was just the last to be informed. Brinley stood setting the baby down to chase his brother. "We already gave notice on our place," she tossed over her shoulder. "End of the month. Of course." The notice filed before the conversation. The moving truck scheduled before my consent. They had written the script and expected me to play my part without complaint. They packed up their toys and sippy cups, filed out like they'd just wrapped a successful meeting. Through the blinds, I watched them climb into Brinley's SUV, the one I co-signed because her credit was shot. I sat alone at the table, staring at the ring left by my cold coffee. My phone buzzed. "Selena, papers are ready." "You sure?" I typed back, more sure than I've ever been. 3 weeks earlier, the cracks in their performance had already shown. Brinley had turned up uninvited, dragging the twins behind her. "Hey, sis," she chirped, breezing past me like it was her house, not mine. "Hope you don't mind." Brought the boys over to play. I minded. I always minded. But I swallowed it the way I always had. She roamed through the living room, into the hallway, her eyes scanning like she was appraising property. One twin ran his small hands along the coffee table. "Mommy, can we live here?" he asked. "Maybe someday," baby Brinley answered without hesitation. Something cold slid into my stomach. She wandered into my office, held her phone up, started taking pictures. "This light is amazing. Perfect for a nursery." "Why are you taking pictures of my house?" I asked. "Just Instagram. Don't be so paranoid." But she wasn't posting. She was saving. The twin stretched his arms wide in the hallway, measuring with his little body. "Kids don't do that without hearing it first." "Brinley," I pressed, "what's going on?" She laughed brittle. "God can't assist her visit." Her phone rang. She lowered her voice, pacing. Yeah, I'm here now. Bedrooms are perfect. Plenty of space for your equipment. Braden's equipment. Keyboard, amp, drum kit, collecting dust for years. Go ahead and start looking at trucks. She whispered before hanging up. Trucks, I asked. She flashed that fake bright smile. So I was thinking, what if I told you about an opportunity that could help us both? Go on. You work so hard. This house must be a lot to maintain. We could take over the mortgage. Well, most of it. You could downsize, save money, win-win. This is my home, I said flatly, and it's beautiful. But be practical, Lauren. Do you really need 3 bedrooms? When was the last time you even used your guest room? Last month when I had the flu and slept there so I wouldn't ruin my clean sheets. But I didn't bother saying it. It wouldn't matter. Brinley kept talking, layering guilt with fake cheer. We already talked to Mom and Dad. They think it's a great idea, really practical. After she left, I called Selena. They want my house, I said. Selena didn't laugh. Jesus, what did you tell her? That I'd think about it. Are you actually going to... I'm thinking about a lot of things, I said. Selena, you still work in real estate law, right? Yeah, why? Hypothetically, if someone wanted to protect their property from family pressure? Her sigh crackled through the line. Lauren. How much family pressure are we talking? The kind where they've already decided I'm giving them my house and just haven't told me yet. Okay, she said slowly. Come by my office tomorrow and listen to me. Don't sign anything. Don't agree. Don't even hint, I promised. But the truth was I wasn't planning to just resist. I was planning to end the game before it began. The morning after Brinley's little nursery tour, I walked into Selena's office downtown. Brick facade, second floor, glass door with her name stenciled in neat black letters, Selena Price, attorney at law. She had that no-nonsense look on her face when I slid into the chair across from her desk. Tell me everything, she said. So I did every hallway measurement, every photo saved to a camera roll, every fake smile. Selena tapped her pen, her dark eyes narrowing the way they always did when she smelled manipulation. They're not asking I finished. They're telling. It's just, they haven't told me yet. Selena leaned back. Then you have 2 options. You can wait for the ambush and fight while you're cornered. Or I set the trap first, I said. She smirked. Exactly. The plan was simple, legal, airtight. Transfer my house into a single-member LLC. Once it wasn't in my personal name, the narrative changed, no longer Lauren's house, but a rental property. Add a tenant with a signed lease, and suddenly, even if my family brought realtors or moving trucks, they were up against paperwork, not pleading. Business doesn't flinch when family cries, Selena said, pushing the forms toward me. Sign here, here, and here. My hand didn't shake. The ink bled steady and final. When she slid the stamped copies across the desk, I felt something loosen inside me, like I'd set down a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying. That evening, I stood in my driveway staring at the house I had fought for. 3 years of 12-hour shifts, meal prep Sundays, side gigs at the clinic. My hands still smelled faintly of antiseptic wipes and latex gloves. It wasn't a palace, but it was mine, and now it was protected. Still, I needed one more layer. Protection was good. Occupation was better. That's when the name surfaced again, Shiloh Gardner. I met her the next day at a coffee shop near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton. I'd suggested the place because it was neutral, busy enough to keep us both comfortable, quiet enough for serious talk. She arrived 5 minutes early, punctual, in a way only military training can ingrain. Uniform, neat hair, pulled back posture straight as a ruler. Lauren, she asked, offering a firm handshake. Shiloh. Thanks for meeting me. We ordered coffee, sat by the window. She didn't waste time. I need housing immediately, she said. Orders came down fast. 2 kids, 8 and 10. Honor roll. I keep a clean home. I pay early. Minimum 6 months, probably longer. Her directness was refreshing. No sob stories, no bargaining, just facts. I need tenants who respect boundaries, I replied. Shiloh nodded once. That won't be a problem. She wrote a check right there, first month, last month, and deposit. The sound of the page tearing free was the cleanest noise I'd heard all week. When can we move in, she asked. Tomorrow, I said. Her relief was visible but controlled. "Thank you, truly." I smiled. "No, thank you." That night, I walked through each room like I was saying goodbye to an old version of myself. I replaced the locks, filed the lease in a bright red folder, labeled and time-stamped. Everything by the book. At 6:41 a.m. the next morning, my phone buzzed. "Brinley, we'll be over with the truck around 10. So excited to start our new life in our new home. Can you Venmo the deposit?" Braden found a great deal. Exclamation marks like daggers. I stared at the screen and said nothing. Silence, I'd learned, could be sharper than any blade. By 10 o'clock, Shiloh and her kids were hauling boxes into the living room. They worked like a team, polite and methodical. The kids lined their things neatly against the wall. No crayons on my furniture, no juice boxes tipped onto the carpet. It struck me how little they took up space compared to my own family. "This is perfect," Shiloh said, surveying the room. "Thank you for trusting us." "Thank you for signing a lease," I answered, and she chuckled softly. We talked logistics, trash day, schools, the best grocery store within 5 miles. She listened carefully, jotting notes, not once assuming she could cut corners. Watching her was like seeing the opposite of Brinley, a person who knew what responsibility meant. I turned my phone off at 10:30. I didn't want to watch the storm roll in. Instead, I drove to meet Selena. She was already at the cafe, sliding a cup across the table. "You sure you don't want to be there?" she asked. "I'm sure," I said. "Let them find out without me." "You're colder than I remember," she teased. "Good." At 10:47, I turned my phone back on. 6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Brinley, 2 from Dad. 1 voicemail already transcribed by the carrier, Lauren, call me back immediately. "There's been some kind of mistake." Another, "What the hell is going on?" "There are people in our house." Another, still, "We need to talk now." I set the phone face down and sipped my coffee. It was the best thing I'd tasted in months. By 11:30, I couldn't resist. I drove home slowly, deliberately, the way you drive when you want to be fashionably late to your own war. The street was chaos. Brinley's SUV parked crooked across the curb, a U-Haul blocking my neighbor's driveway boxes spilling onto the sidewalk. Mom's Mercedes angled like a barricade. And there, in the center of it all, was Shiloh Lease in one hand, arms crossed, calm as stone. Brinley's voice carried halfway down the block. "You can't just move people into our house." Shiloh's response was steady. "Ma'am, I have a lease. This is my rental property." I parked down the street, walked up with my iced coffee in hand. Lauren, Mom cried, "Tell this woman there's been a mistake." "No mistake," I said, sipping slowly. Brinley's face twisted. "We're supposed to move in today according to who I asked. According to our agreement. What agreement?" I let the question hang. Braden puffed his chest. "We already gave up our place. We've got nowhere else to go." "That sounds like a you problem," I said, letting the words cut. Mom's voice sharpened. "What is wrong with you?" "Nothing," I said. "For once, everything is right." Shiloh leaned closer. "Should I call the police?" "Not yet," I said. "Give them a minute to process." Process what Mom demanded. I smiled into my straw. "Actually, it's not my house anymore. I sold it." The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. The silence after my words, "It's not my house anymore. I sold it," was like a clean blade through chaos. Even the twins stopped fussing. My mother blinked at me as if I'd spoken in another language. "You?" what Dad asked. Finally, his voice hoarse. "I sold it," I repeated, calm. "To an LLC, it's not mine anymore." Mom's eyes widened. "You can't just sell your house without telling us, 'Watch me.' For once, the power in the room belonged to me." I sipped my coffee, let the ice rattle in the cup. Brinley's face crumpled. "We already gave up our apartment," she wailed. "We've got nowhere else to go." "Then you'll have to find somewhere else," I said evenly. "That's what grown-ups do. They plan their lives. They don't plan mine for me." Braden stepped forward, tattoos flexing like that made him taller. "This is was. Up, Lauren. We counted on this. Counting on something doesn't make it yours," I snapped. "You never asked. You just assumed. That's the difference." Shiloh's voice cut in, firm and steady. "Ma'am, should I call the police now?" "Go ahead," I told her. Brinley shrieked. "You're really going to let strangers throw out your own family?" "Not strangers," I said, nodding at Shiloh. "Tenants, with a lease. That's what makes it different. They belong here. You don't." The police arrived faster than I expected. 2 patrol cars pulling up, lights flashing, but no sirens. Neighbors peeked through curtains, curious eyes behind glass. The first officer approached, calm but alert. "We got a call about trespassing." "Yes," Shiloh said immediately, stepping forward, lease in hand. "These people are on my rental property, refusing to leave." "It's not her rental property," Brinley shouted. "It's our house." The officer turned to me. "Ma'am, do you live here?" I shook my head. "No, I used to. I sold it to an LLC. Ms. Gardner has a valid lease. Can I see it?" Shiloh handed over the folder. The officer flipped through it, nodding slightly. "Looks in order." He turned back to my family. "Folks, you need to leave. This is private property. Family disputes don't give you the right to trespass." My mother gasped. "She's our daughter." "You can't just—" "I understand," the officer said gently but firmly, "but the law is clear. You don't have permission to be here." Brinley gestured wildly at the U-Haul. "What about our stuff?" "Where are we supposed to go?" "That's your responsibility," the officer replied. "You'll need to take it elsewhere." I let the words land like stones. "Maybe you should have thought of that before giving up your apartment," I added. Brinley's lip trembled. "You're heartless." "No," I said. "I'm done being your safety net." The officers stood by while my family began reloading the boxes they'd so confidently unloaded earlier. Braden muttered curses under his breath, every other word an obscenity. "Language." Shiloh said sharply, nodding at her kids peeking from the doorway. Her tone carried more authority than his bluster ever would. Braden glared at her. "Don't tell me what to." She straightened, still calm. "You're on my property. You don't like my rules. Leave faster." Even the officer smirked at that. Mom busied herself directing the packing, her jaw tight, her pride bleeding through every movement. Dad kept his head down, carrying boxes in silence, as if by avoiding eye contact, he could avoid responsibility. 20 minutes later, the U-Haul's door slammed shut. My parents' cars idled in the street engines, humming like muted anger. Brinley stood in front of me, mascara-streaked arms crossed like she was the injured party. "I can't believe you'd do this to your own sister," she spat. "I can't believe you thought you could take my house," I replied coldly. "We weren't taking it, we were sharing. Like family. Sharing without asking is taking," I said. "You don't get to rename theft and call it love." Her face twisted, but she had no comeback. The officers waited until the last box was packed before giving a final nod. "All right, folks, time to clear out." My family reluctantly climbed into their vehicles. Braden flipped me off from the passenger seat of Brinley's SUV, childish to the end. Mom rolled down her window, calling out, "This isn't over, Lauren. Family is forever," I met her eyes. "Respect is forever, too. Pity you never learned that." Her lips pressed tight. Then the Mercedes rolled away. Silence settled over the block. Shiloh stepped closer, lowering her phone. "That was intense," she said. "Sorry you had to see it." "Don't be. I've seen worse." She studied me a moment. "You okay?" I exhaled for real this time. Perfect. And for once, I meant it. The fallout came fast. By the time I got home from work the next night, I had 20 voicemails and nearly 50 texts. "Mom, Lauren, we need to sit down and fix this mess. Your sister is devastated. Dad." "This has gone too far. Call me back. Brinley." "The twins keep asking why Aunt Lauren doesn't love them anymore. Hope you're happy. Braden." "You're a selfish. Say, karma's coming for you. Delete, delete, delete." I didn't owe them my ears anymore. Selena texted, "Do not engage. Let the silence work for you." She was right. Silence has weight. It forces people to hear themselves. But the campaign didn't stop there. Brinley took it to Facebook, posting dramatic photos of the twins looking sad on a couch. "Please keep my family in your prayers during this difficult time. My sister chose money over family, leaving us homeless. The boys don't understand why Aunt Lauren doesn't love them anymore." The comments piled up. "So sorry, hun. Those poor babies. Family is everything." I screenshotted everything and closed the app. It stung, of course, but mostly it felt familiar. This was the same script they'd used on my brother Eli years ago when he refused to give his signing bonus to fund Brinley's wedding. Same guilt, same family first mantra, different target. And this time, the script was failing. Because I wasn't playing the part. 3 nights later, the phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in years. Eli. Lauren. He said, voice rough but warm. I heard about the house. Good for you. Really? I asked, half laughing. Really? About damn time someone grew a spine with them. I leaned against the counter, relief rushing through me. You know what they're saying, right, on social media, I do? Don't read it. It's poison. They did the same thing to me. What do you mean? He told me everything, how Mom had demanded he hand over $25,000 for Brinley's wedding, how the relatives called him selfish, how he walked away and never came back. They use guilt as currency, he said, and the moment you stop accepting it, you're free. His words hit like oxygen in my lungs. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized the confrontation wasn't just about property. It was about years of being cast as the strong one, the giving one, the one who would never say no. Now I had, and the world hadn't ended. The dust didn't settle right away. If anything, the storm grew louder once the moving truck disappeared from my street. My phone became a weapon against my peace calls every hour, texts piling faster than I could delete them. Mom begging, Dad warning, Brinley crying, Braden threatening. I let them all go to voicemail. Silence was my new armor. By Friday night, I had 23 missed calls and 47 unread texts. I deleted every single one without opening them. For the first time in years, I wasn't obligated to listen. Then came the next level, the casserole ambush. I came home from a grocery run to find Mom sitting on my front steps, a glass dish perched on her lap. Tuna noodle casserole, the same one she used to make when I was a kid and wanted comfort food. Lauren, she said, standing as I approached. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please, 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She set the dish on my counter like it was an offering to a god she'd offended. Your sister and the twins are staying with us, she said. It's not sustainable. They need a real home. Then she should find one. With what money she gave up her apartment because she thought she assumed I cut in. She never asked. That's the difference. Mom sank into a chair, smoothing her skirt the way she always did when she needed control. Honey, you're stronger. You can handle more. That's why we've leaned on you. I stared at her. When's my birthday? She blinked. What when is my birthday? June 15th. June 22nd, I corrected. You missed it by a week. Do you remember my nursing school graduation date? Her silence was the only answer. But you remember Brinley's birthday, her high school graduation, her wedding, every detail down to the cake flavor. That doesn't mean I love her more. Doesn't it? She pressed her lips together, then opened the casserole dish. The smell of canned tuna and cream of mushroom filled the kitchen. I made this from scratch, she said softly. You made it from a recipe card you've had for 20 years, I replied. Food doesn't fix this. Her sigh was long, weary, practiced. I don't know who you've become. I looked her straight in the eye. The daughter who finally stopped being your doormat. The campaign didn't stop there. Brinley doubled down on Facebook, posting sad photos of the twins, with captions dripping in guilt. Still homeless thanks to my sister's selfishness. Please pray for us, the comments flooded in. Those poor babies. How could anyone do that to children? Family is everything. But Eli, my brother, who'd been cast out years before, called me. I saw the posts, he said. It's the same playbook they used on me. Don't fall for it. He drove down that weekend, and over coffee, he told me the whole story. How Mom had demanded his $25,000 signing bonus for Brinley's wedding. How the relatives called him ungrateful. How he finally packed up and left. They make villains out of the ones who say no, he said. But you know what? None of those relatives offered to help Brinley themselves. Not Aunt Patricia with the 4-bedroom house. Not Uncle Mike with his shiny new boat. Not Cousin Jennifer with her 6-figure salary. They just wanted me to pay. It clicked then. It wasn't about family loyalty. It was about convenience. Guilt was easier than generosity when the sacrifice came from someone else. The pressure escalated one last time. A lawyer called David Chen from Chen and Associates, claiming Mom wanted to pursue a case of financial elder abuse. I nearly laughed. She's 58. Selena wasn't amused. They're fishing, Lauren. Don't worry. There's no case. You sold your own property, clean and legal. She's wasting money on lawyers who'll take any retainer. How much money, I asked? $5,000 at least. For a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. Finally, I went to my parents' house. I was tired of shadow wars. If there was going to be an ending, I wanted to deliver it myself. The living room looked like a daycare explosion, juice boxes on the table, toys on the floor, cartoons blaring. Brinley sat in her pajamas at 6 p.m., the twins climbing over her like furniture. I stood. They sat. And I laid out my case like a nurse delivering rounds. Brinley, when you needed a co-signer for your car, who did you ask? You, she admitted. And when you needed help with daycare bills, you helped, she muttered. And when you wanted a weekend free to go to that concert, you watched the twins. I turned to Mom and Dad. But when I needed help when I graduated nursing school, when I was sick and couldn't work for a week, when I saved for this house silence, you only see me as the strong one, I continued. The one who can handle everything. The one who should sacrifice. But you never stop to ask what I need. That's not true, Mom said weakly. Prove it. Tell me one time in the last 5 years when my needs came first. They couldn't. Not a single example. So I told them the truth. I'd already moved out. I had a downtown apartment, quiet and mine. The house was gone. Sold. Legal. Over. Mom's eyes filled with tears. The boys will grow up thinking their aunt doesn't love them. No, I said. They'll grow up learning that love doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. When I walked out of that house, I didn't look back. I sat in my car, hands trembling, not with fear, but with relief. For the first time in my life, I could breathe without permission. I called Eli. It's done, I said. He laughed. Welcome to freedom. 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane to Portland, not because I was running away, but because I finally could choose where to go without guilt shackling me. I rented a tiny apartment with a view of the river. I started writing my story on my laptop at a cafe by the water, partly as therapy, partly because Selena thought it might help others. Brinley eventually found a 2-bedroom apartment 20 minutes from my parents. Braden got a job at a guitar center. The twins adjusted. Life went on. My parents stopped calling as often, though occasionally Mom left voicemails about forgiveness and family unity. I didn't respond. Selena called one afternoon. Good news. That lawyer your mom hired dropped the case. No grounds. It's over. I smiled into my coffee. It's been over. She just didn't realize it. Now I sit on my balcony, the river sparkling in the late afternoon sun. I think about everything I gave up, the guilt, the endless sacrifices, the constant demands. And I think about what I gained: freedom, peace, and the right to live my life on my own terms. Sometimes revenge isn't about fire screaming or slamming doors. Sometimes it's about ice, about silence, about peace so complete it unsettles the ones who tried to control you. That's the luxury I bought with my boundaries. And for the first time, it feels like it was worth every cent. That was my story, how my own family tried to corner me, and how I chose freedom over guilt. Maybe you've lived through something similar. Maybe you're in the middle of it right now. I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in my place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story hit home for you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. We share stories every week about standing up, breaking free, and finding peace even when it comes at a cost. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next one.